Protesters storm EFCC's headquarters, demand reopening of former Zamfara Governor Matawale's 70 billion naira corruption case. The All Progressives Congress Guba candidate in Edo State raises concern over Governor Godwin Obasaki's 70,000 naira minimum wage, calls it a great gift. Former Governor of Imo State Emeka Hedioha calls the mass departure from the PDP a vote of confidence in his leadership. Outside Nigeria, tonight, news reaching us, Chadians head to the polls on Monday, returning the nation to constitutional rule. And violence shuts crucial aid corridor into Sudan's Darfur region at risk of starvation, says UN agency. Well, tonight on Politics HQ, the politics of River State is again in the news. This time, a federal lawmaker suspended by his party and a state lawmaker in police detention for 14 days. Will River State find peace anytime soon? We'll unbundle this tonight on Politics HQ. My name is Kofi Bartels. You're welcome. You're welcome. Today we're back in River State. No surprises, right? Where the suspension of a pro-Governor Fubara federal lawmaker who goes by the name of Awaji-Inombek Abiante has led to a disagreement within the People's Democratic Party. Abiante, a member of the House of Representatives, was suspended from the PDP by some executives of his ward, just like happened in the case of Ganduje. Well, Abiante's ward is Ward 1 in Ngo Town, under the leadership of one Mr. DK Barra, who is said to be the caretaker committee chairman, ward chairman, Mr. Dokubo Jackson, who is the CTC secretary, and 14 others. They took this decision on Tuesday after what they say was an executive meeting. Now, why are they suspending Honorable Representative Abiante? They say that Abiante was suspended from the PDP for not only promoting factions at the ward level, but also belonging to a group under the guise of the party. Now, not being a group provided for in the party's constitution, which they say is an action in breach of Section 58, subsection 10 of the Constitution of the People's Democratic Party. However, that's not the end of the story, because another caretaker committee in the same Ngo Town, Ward 1, led by Honorable Owaka Gakemi Lawrence as chairman of the CTC in Ward 1, Ngo Town, and Comrade Stephen Jumbo as secretary of the CTC, dismissed this suspension, or what they call the purported suspension of Abiante, and they insist that Representative Abiante remains a valid member of the party, knowing that the man who led the suspension, or the men, that's DK Barra and Dokubo Jackson, are not members or officials of the People's Democratic Party. Now, that's not all. Also in River State, a member of the representing Ahoda West constituency in the River State House of Assembly. We're talking about Honorable Sokari Goodboy Sokari. He's finally regained his freedom after spending 2 weeks in the custody of the Nigeria Police Force. Now, this followed his arrest on April 18. The date of the PDP NEC, well, interestingly, he was outside the venue of the PDP NEC meeting in Abuja, and that's where he was arrested. He wasn't arrested alone. He was arrested along with a PDP chieftain in River State, a former loyalist of River State Governor and the current Minister of the FCT, Ezebunwo Ichemati. Now, both Sokari and Ichemati are loyalists of the River State Governor, Siminalayi Fubara. We'll try to make some sense of the latest in a complicated state of politics in River State. Joining us is the convener of the Niger Delta Self-Determination Movement, Annkio Briggs. We have a Godswill Jumbo, publisher of Christina Reports, and that's in Bonny Island, River State. And Qudus Alalafia, he's the head of chambers at Chineduji, Udoro & Co. in Abuja. Thank you so very kindly for your time. Good evening to all of you. All right, thank you very much. Let's start with you, Annkio Briggs. What's your reaction? Let's start from the Abiante situation. What's your reaction given to the reasons given for the suspension of Representative Abiante?
Good evening, listeners. Thank you, Kofi. The truth of the matter is that I'm looking at this issue, most political issues, if not all political issues, as a stakeholder in Rivers State, and if it is at national level or regional level, as a stakeholder from the region and from the country, Nigeria. Now, political parties need to understand one thing, that it's not everybody that is a member of a political party, but everybody has a right to vote. And that right to vote is what puts them in whatever position that they find themselves. Now, members of any political party cannot continue to assume roles of ownership in Rivers State, political ownership. They are not there to, if you like, impose their will all of the time on the people. Now, if they have issues in their political party, they must find a way to resolve these issues without it affecting the rights of the voters in Rivers State. We have a situation where 27 or 20, how many people got up one morning and declared no longer representatives of the people that voted for them into a particular political party. Well, now, we have not resolved that issue, irrespective of what the law says as far as they are concerned. Those issues now have to be resolved by the court of law. We want the law to tell us exactly who these people are, whom they're representing, and from where they're representing us in Rivers State. We already have that crisis going on in Rivers State. And people have taken it upon themselves. When I say people, I mean politicians have taken it upon themselves in Rivers State to do what they like, how they like, when they like, on their own, or for their own reasons and for their own self-satisfaction, if you like. And that is not the reason of politics. That is not the role of politicians. The role of politicians is to do what is in the best interest of the people that they are representing. So the suspension of Abiante, as you've seen, one group has suspended him from the same local government, and now another group has come up to say, no, you can't suspend him. So that's exactly what I'm trying to point out.
Quite interesting. Of course, you've talked about the overall situation in Rivers State, even with the lawmakers. But I want to go to Godswill Jumbo. Mr. Jumbo, your take on the suspension of Representative Abiante and the reasons given for his suspension. He's said to have been suspended from the party for promoting factions. That's number one. At the ward level, that's what they're saying. He suspended factions at the ward level. That's number one. Number two, he belongs to a group that is not provided for in the party's constitution. So those are two reasons given for his suspension. Your take on that, Jumbo?
I think a pattern is being created, where somebody wakes up, or a group of persons wake up and they frame up, fabricate some things that, are waving in their brain, and then they tag someone who does not align with them politically, and then they put up drama around it. Now, how do you even begin to say somebody is creating factions in his ward, in his village? For those who know Andoni LGA is the home of the Obolo people, the Obolo ethnic nationality, which is a subset of the subunit of the larger Ijaw ethnic nationality. Now, the Obolo land is split into 4, and all of them speak the same language. They have the same way of life, everything. So when you begin to say that it's creating factions, which factions where? Is it in Ngo or Asarama or Krowile or Ikuru Town or in Ibotiren or Unyada or Yorokoto? Where is it creating the factions? All Andoni people, regardless, Andoni people practice the kind of politics that my own people, Boni people, practice. They play the politics, but they remain one. They eat together, they laugh together, they dance their masquerade together, they do everything together. So how does the faction even begin to arise? You know, no matter the political differences, you know, they will align with at the state level. When you go to Andoni, and I've mentioned some of the towns and villages, you see these people interacting. So, and regardless of party lines, so how do you even begin to talk about creating factions and then belonging to a group? Does it not have a fundamental right,
All right.
you know,
Mm.
protected by the Constitution to belong to any group he wants to belong to? Can you deny him that right? You yourself that is saying that he belongs to a group, don't you belong to certain groups? Should we begin to also look at the groups you belong to? I mean, we need to rise above this level of petty politics. That is
All right.
the kind of mentality that has
All right.
rendered River State a rivers of drama, unnecessary drama,
It used to
childish
be
drama,
rivers of
petty
blood
drama.
those days, but well, maybe it's a step up to rivers of drama. Thank you very much. I want to go to a lawyer in the house. Mr. Alalafia, what are your thoughts on this? Especially legally speaking, the man is accused of having, factions and also of promoting groups that the party's constitution does not mention.
All right. Thank you very much. Legally speaking, if the People's Democratic Party at the world level feels that Mr. Abiante, Honorable Abiante, has flouted some of the rules or some of the provisions of the constitution of their party. Regardless of whatever they think, the cardinal principle of fair hearing is very, very sacrosanct. The question is, was Honorable Abiante called to defend himself before sanction is taken against him? There are a plethora of authorities with respect to the fact that whenever any body, let me say, when I say body, I mean a constituted body, has positioned itself to melt out sanction in form of punitive measure against the order, then it is sacrosanct that the principle of fair hearing must be adhered to. So the principle of hear the other side of the story is very key. So in the event that that Honorable Abiante was not given this particular fair hearing, then definitely that action to a very large extent is a nullity. But that does not mean that the PDP, either at the world level, at the state level, or at the national level, does not have the power to sanction its members. So far, that sanction, the procedure to sanction, is within the ambit of the guideline and the procedure of what their law has stipulated. Now, in the event that their law has now provided that they can sanction a member who is alleged for anti-party or for incitement of violence, to just sanction without calling the person to come and defend himself, the law, that's the position of our judicial president, the authority of Majakudu versus University of Ibadan is there. Garba versus University of Maiduguri is there. Plethora of authorities to the effect that at the point when you are taking decision to sanction another person, if the court or if the law sees that you have not given that person a fair hearing, the entire procedure, as well as a sanction is a nullity. It's as simple as that. Thank you very much. That's my take.
Okay, interesting. I want to stay with the lawyer a little bit before I come back to our guests, because Section 10 or Chapter 10 of the Constitution of the People's Democratic Party, Mr. Alalafia, talks about the disciplinary position or procedure in the party. And it says that where an allegation is made, just want to read just quickly, it says, subject to the provisions of this constitution, there shall be a disciplinary committee of the party at every level, so national level, state level, local government level, ward level, consisting of 7 members with proven integrity, one of whom shall have legal background. It says the disciplinary committee shall be appointed by the appropriate executive committee of the party. So that's why I'm sure the ward exco were the ones who, if they want to appoint themselves, maybe they can. It now says the working committee at any level of the party, this is Section 3, Chapter 10, Section 57, Sub 2, the working committee at any level of the party and the executive committee at the ward level. So there we see that the exco at the ward level can be the committee. May, after preliminary hearings, suspend a member from the party for a period not exceeding 1 month, during which period the member so suspended shall lose his right to contest any election and shall be referred to the appropriate disciplinary committee. So here, it seems to be saying, and I want your thoughts on this, your interpretation. Is it saying that the ward executive can, or the committee, disciplinary committee at any level can suspend the member before any disciplinary hearing, or let's say any disciplinary committee? I want to read it again for your hearing, sir. It says, subject to the provisions of this constitution, there shall be a disciplinary committee of the party at every level, consisting of 7 members with proven integrity, one of whom shall have legal background. Sub 2 says, the disciplinary committee shall be appointed by the appropriate executive party of the committee. Sub 3 says, a working committee at any level of the party and the executive committee at the ward level may, after preliminary hearings, suspend a member from the party for a period of not exceeding 1 month, during which period the member so suspended shall lose his right to contest any election and shall be referred to the appropriate disciplinary committee. So are they in order listening to this? Alalafia.
Thank you very much. The underlining word in everything you have read is after preliminary meetings or preliminary session. So which means before you can even suspend, number one, at any level of the party, whether the ward level, state level, or the national level, of course, they are empowered to suspend. They are empowered to, by the provision that you have read, they are empowered to carry out disciplinary actions against anybody. But that notwithstanding, that's still predicated upon the preliminary meeting or session, which that Section 10 or the provision of that 10 of that of
Chapter 10, Chapter 10, Section 57.
Chapter 10, you must have held a session. You must have called the person in that session to decide whether, or at least there's something we call prima facie case. Prima facie case is until the contrary is proven. On the basis of what we are looking before us, it is true. That is the meaning of prima facie. So if a prima facie case is established after hearing both sides, then you can suspend. So if you do not if that session is not, if that preliminary session is not held before the suspension, then the precondition to validate the suspension is invalid. So therefore, that suspension cannot hold, except where the ward level can prove that yes, that preliminary session was adequately held. Thank you very much. Okay,
I'll come to Annkio Briggs after our next submission, because it seems the Constitution of PDP is saying suspend. What can suspend? Local government executive committee, state executive committee, national executive working committee can suspend. A state working, local government working, state working, national can suspend before the hearing for 1 month, whilst the disciplinary committee can now write to the affected person to invite them for the public hearing. So I would like to take your thoughts and that of Jumbo as well when we come back from the break Also, after we come back to know if Abiante was written to or has been written to, and if he's submitted himself to the disciplinary committee. Still, Politics HQ will be right back. Please stay with us. Welcome back. It's still Politics HQ right here on News Central TV. My name is Kofi Bartels. We have a guest still with us. Qudus Alalafia is the head of chambers, Chinedu, or head of chamber, Chinedu G. Udora and Co. He joins us via video link in Abuja. We have Godswill Jumbo, publisher of Christiana Reports. That's Bonny Island in River State. And we have Annkio Briggs, convener of the Niger Delta Self-Determination Movement. Annkio Briggs, over to you. You've listened to what the lawyer in the House said. You've also listened to what I read out regarding the PDP's constitution, which says that the ward exco can suspend him. From my interpretation of what I'm reading here, that after they suspend him for 1 month, that the disciplinary committee will write to the man, as so constituted by the ward executive, will write to the member so suspended, inviting him to have his say on the allegations made against him, also informing him of the place and time of the hearing of the case against him or her, and shall be given an opportunity to present his case before the committee orally or in writing, either in person or through a counsel of his choice, and shall be allowed to call a witness. So I mean, are you aware that this process has been followed? Annkio Briggs.
Not being not being a politician, but definitely someone who is interested in what politicians do in my name. From what you have read, and from what the legal person had said to us here, it's the question now is: what did any of those things take place in the order in which you have read out, and in the order in which Honorable Abiante's so-called suspension is supposed to have taken place? I have not heard that had occurred. And so the first impression I'm getting just from what you've read and from what the lawyer had said, it's very clear that in Rivers State, we are being given false information. We're being given false impression. The electorate, who perhaps is not a member of A or B political party, is left at the mercy and whims and caprices of what the political parties are doing in their name, in the sense that if you vote for someone to represent you, let us say on PDP or even on APC, and there is some squabbles within the party, then you, not being a member of the political party, now have lost your say, and you're the person that actually put the person there. You have lost your say in what can and cannot happen. And I'm saying to electorates, as I'm saying to myself, that we must be careful what we allow politicians to do. So for me, I think that if none of these things, I believe that if none of these things have taken place, then whoever these members of the PDP are at the ward level and the local government level of Honorable Abiante have done, if they've not gone through the right process, then whatever they've done is null and void. It doesn't exist, because they have not gone through the process, the correct process. But then that is Nigeria for you, is lawlessness. Everybody just gets up and do and says what they want. And it is us, you and I, the people who go out and vote, that are left at the mercy, at the whims and caprices of these politicians who do what they like, as they like, when they like, from wherever they like, whether they are in Abuja or whether they are in Abonima or wherever they are. They do what they like. And we must continue to begin to rise up now and say to these politicians, no, you cannot continue to kick us around in this manner and expect to come back and get our votes next time. It's up to the electorate what they allow to happen to them, quite honestly.
Interesting. Godswill Jumbo, remember the period when Uche Secondus was suspended by his ward executive, and It's still in the same Andoni area, and that led to his ultimate demise. Are they, politically that is, he was removed as chairman of the PDP. Are there any similarities between what Uche Secondos went through and what is happening today? Similarities in terms of the dramatist personnel and also in terms of the experience here.
Okay, the similarities are not much. Aside that a group of people came together and told themselves that they've suspended their fellow human being. That's the only similarity. The difference is that in the case of Secondos, it was actually the party ESCO at the ward level that took that decision. And you could see it followed through, until when the whole issues were resolved and then we got back again together. In this case now, we don't even know the people projecting themselves. Now, the supposedly authentic ESCO of the party at that ward have come out to dismiss what these people are saying, and even, I think, challenge them to authenticate their locus, their position for even coming up with what they are coming up with. But I think we're looking at a bigger problem, a bigger Malay. In Nigeria, like my auntie has said, Annkio Briggs, that lawlessness seems to be mainstreamed. Like you are sure that you can wake up and do the wrong thing and nothing will happen. There is that, intrinsic, embedded, latent confidence that it doesn't matter what you do, whether in politics, whether in the society, you commit a crime, you're sure that nothing will happen. Now, the law you have read out, the constitution of the party, if you look at it, there are basic protocols set out there. There are two sides to it. Before you even suspend, you should have a preliminary hearing. In my own layman's understanding, is that you invite the man and say, is there a reason why we should not suspend you? This is what we are hearing, or this is what we have seen. What do you have to say about it? You offer the man the opportunity to even explain himself, what could have happened or what did not happen. Now, we don't have the information if he was written to, if he was invited, if that preliminary hearing happened. The only thing we are hearing is that he's been suspended, and then the second part is, okay, whichever way, after the suspension, the disciplinary committee or body will have to come in and review all that has happened, the reason for which he or she is being suspended. Now, the first part is where the problem is. Was Abiante invited before a proper, party ESCO?
Yeah, but Godswill Jumbo, from what I read, sorry to interject, Godswill, from what I read out, the constitution says that the ward executive of the party can suspend him for 30 days. They can have their own hearing or their meeting and suspend him, then hand him over to disciplinary committee.
The preliminary hearing is the operative word there.
But it didn't say explicitly. It didn't say explicitly that he needs to be invited to the ward executive meeting.
So was he invited?
No, because from what I read, it says that from section 57, chapter 10, it seems to be saying that when the ward executive suspends him, that a disciplinary committee is set up by the ward executive, because it's only for 30 days and no more. A disciplinary committee can write him, informing him of the date, time, and venue of their hearing. He can come on his own, or he can appoint a counsel to represent him. He can present his answers in orally or written. So it seems to be saying that he need not be invited before the initial suspension. Sorry.
Now, if he needs not to be invited before the suspension, don't you think there is a fundamental error there? Because you are doing something that will be fundamental to his political career, mainly that he cannot, within that period, contest for any political office. What if it is at the eve of an election, the eve of a primary, the eve of, purchasing nomination forms, and then some people wake up and then they say they have suspended XYZ. Now, the person cannot buy that nomination form. The person cannot contest for the primaries. The person cannot. Now, that's fundamental to the political career of somebody. But he does not have to be heard before that suspension. So I think the PDP needs to look at its constitution again, and not just the PDP, every other political party. You know, those loopholes, those lacunas that are left in party constitutions, even in the laws of Nigeria, that people manipulate to be able to, you know, entrench the wrong things in the polity. Those lacunas need to be closed. Every time you look at a particular law in a particular direction covering any particular issue in Nigeria, there's always a loophole. Politicians look for themselves to do the wrong thing.
Okay, Mr. Jumbo, so you're saying the PDP needs to look at this. Thank you, but I want to bring in, before we go on the break, Alalafia here.
Yeah. And all other political parties.
Thank you. Thank you. Qudus Alalafia, we've seen, as in the case of Ganduje Ward, and please unmute yourself, I think we can't hear you. We've seen, as in the case of Ganduje Ward, where Omar Ganduje of APC was suspended.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, perfect. We're seeing here, too, that we have parallel ward executive members coming out to make parallel decisions. How can such situations be remedied?
Okay, let me, before that, the second speaker, the immediate speaker, that the presenter that just spoke now did so much well, and I would like to share just a simple light in that regard. See, when we say suspension sometimes comes as a result of punishment, and sometimes it's come as a way to protect the interest, the subject matter, before the court or before any judicial authority. Now, most often than not, when people are being suspended, and the law will not look at it from the perspective of punishment, is when the law sees the person that we are suspending as somebody who has the capacity and the authority to frustrate the entire situation, the entire process of that proceeding. So in that regard, the law will say, okay, excuse yourself so that it doesn't look like you are interfering into the proceeding. That is suspension. In that regard, it is not punishment. But where the person's presence has nothing to do with the interference of the proceeding, suspension in that regard may be interpreted to mean punishment. And to my interpretation, if you look at the of that chapter, either chapter 3 or section 10 of the PDP constitution that you
chapter 10, section 57.
There is a conditional precedent, preliminary session, preliminary hearing, where you are to establish, and by that establishment must have invited the other parties to at least say one or two before you take.
All right,
that,
we have to go for a quick break. Qudus, thank you very much. That's a good way to land. We want to go for a quick commercial break. When I'll come back and we'll ask our guests, you know, why Abiante is going through what he's going through as we speak. For those of you watching at home, please stay with us. It's still Politics HQ. Welcome back. Still discussing latest in the politics of River State right here in Politics HQ. Annkio Briggs, convener Niger Delta Self-Determination Movement. Godswill Jumbo, publisher Christiana Reports, and Qudus Alalafia, head of chambers, or head of chamber, Chinedu G. Udora and Co. Our guests tonight. Annkio Briggs, is there a reason, what's the reason for Representative Abiante's current predicament? Has he played any role in the ongoing political tussle between Wike and Fubara?
Well, I mean, anybody can answer that question in the affirmative. Politics is about taking sides and supporting. And that's why we're able to go out and vote. When you have 3 candidates, you vote for one that you choose. So that's what politics is about. And definitely in the crisis that started emerging and exploded into River State around October or so last year, accumulating into the attack on the governor and people taking sides. Of course, Abiante, people like Abiante, people like Eboma Goodhead, Sokari, and about 4 other state lawmakers, River State lawmakers, were very clearly on the side of the governor, and about 27 or so of them were not on the side of the governor, were on the side of the former governor of River State, now the FCT minister. You see, we have a situation in River State where the politics, PDP has allowed the politics to play out in River State in a way where someone who is no longer the governor of River State is actually being seen as the governor of River State by the sort of support and the utterances that are coming from the supporters that he has. And this is not acceptable in the sense that we have a governor of River State. If he's not doing well, I mean, Fubara, if he's not doing well, it is the people of River State that will say so, not the supporters of the former governor who are in the government of Sim Fubara. And you mentioned Sokari. Sokari was just released, I think, yesterday. And I don't know whether you saw it or not, but I think about 2 weeks ago when PDP had their convention that has led to the former Imo State governor resigning and many of his supporters resigning in Imo State from the PDP. PDP is actually heading for an overall crisis wherever PDP is. At the end of the day, they are moving into a pit that they have dug for themselves. And this is where the electorate has to be careful. You know, so now we have Sokari, who's been held by the police in Abuja.
Yeah, so tell us about that. Yeah, tell us about that. Why was Sokari arrested along with Ezebo Chemate?
Well, yeah, Ezebo, as you quite rightly said, at that particular instant was arrested along with him. And I don't know whether you saw the video of that fiasco, the arrest, where Ezebo was actually shouting, and you could hear them saying that that they were being pointed out, they were being singled out and identified, if you like, to the police to arrest them. So one can only assume, and I have a right to that assumption, based on what has happened before and based on what transpired at that particular moment of what we saw online as it was happening, that they were arrested because they are supporters of Fubara. Well, I mean, anybody can take a position that they want to take in that. But knowing what we know in River State, you can come to that conclusion that, yes, he is being arrested. Whatever the reason that the police is given, it will have to be determined in a court of law. But the shouting that we were hearing was indicating that they are being arrested because they support Governor Fubara, Governor Sim Fubara. And that is not acceptable. You know, because, I mean, we are free to support whoever we want to support. I supported the former governor of River State when he was governor of River State. You know, so people have a right to support who they want to support. And you cannot oppress the people because you don't get your way politically. Then you oppress a whole state because you don't get to have your way. It's not acceptable. That is not why we have politicians. And someone like me, I will continue to speak in this manner and continue to raise my voice against what is so unacceptable. People have a right, Abiante has a right, to support Sim Fubara. There is no other governor in River State, for crying out loud, for even anybody not to support Sim Fubara, unless if you're on a different political party. But if you're not, if you're in PDP and you don't support Fubara, what are you doing in his cabinet if you don't support him?
Okay,
you know,
interesting.
So all of these things are the realities that we're facing.
All right, Annkio Briggs, interesting. Godswill Jumbo, are you aware of any reason the police gave because of course, police arrest you, detain you for 14 days, 2 weeks. They should be able to say something. We know the legally acceptable time frame for police detention without charging to court. Has the police in River State or the IGP said anything about Sokari Goodboy Sokari's arrest and indeed that of Ezebowo Echemati?
Well, since from the time those guys were arrested until now, curiously, the police never made any statement on it. Obviously, the police knows that it got it wrong. I hate to use the phrase insane crimes, but sometimes Nigeria forces you to say things you don't like to say. But let's look at it. The police is supposed to provide protection for citizens, prosecution for crime, prevention of crime, and several other security-related, law enforcement-related roles. Now, none of those roles, fits into that narrative of Godswill Jumbo comes with policemen and points at Kofi Battles, arrest him, and police will arrest Kofi Battles. It's wrong. It's wrong. If there is the contemplation, the supposition that a crime has been committed, the police should know what to do, not people ordering policemen around. Imagine the drama that day. They were about to be apprehended in a particular place. They started shouting, and then they had to leave them. Then they go to another location, and then they came after them again. And then somebody was giving orders. I mean, somebody who has no, legal authority to order the police around was ordering the police around in broad daylight, and it was being captured on video. Is that the kind of police we want to have in this country?
All right. Well, I'm sure Godswill Jumbo, we all were in River State for some years, and we saw something similar, if not worse. But I will come back and I'll take Qudus's thoughts on the, on this particular situation, especially because it has legal implications. Arresting a Nigerian, not even an ordinary Nigerian, in this case, a House of Assembly member without any charge. We'll stay with our guests, and all stay with us rather, and we'll be right back after this break. Welcome back. Let's quickly round off by asking our guest, Qudus Alalafia, for his thoughts on legal angle. As far as the situation is concerned, Honorable Sokari Goodboy Sokari, member of the House of Assembly, River State, duly elected by the people, goes to Abuja, along with other PDP members in the state, and is arrested outside the venue of the PDP NEC with Ezebowo Echemati. What are your thoughts on this?
Oh, okay, thank you very much. I will also speak from the legal point of view. The first thing is that police has the prosecuting power. They have the power to arrest. However, the procedure to arrest has also been identified by the Constitution, by the Administration of Criminal Justice Act, and every other enabled enactments in that regard. Now, sometimes there can be a lawful arrest, and the lawful arrest will lead to unlawful detention. But in all cases, once there is unlawful arrest, then the detention becomes totally unlawful. I repeat, sometimes there can be a lawful arrest, and we have unlawful detention. But in all cases, when we have unlawful arrests, automatically the detention becomes unlawful. Now, in the situation where we have unlawful arrests, is that the police at the point of arrest must have reasonable suspicion, underline the word reasonable suspicion, to say, oh, I have reasonable suspicion to arrest this person. And by the Police Act, it has identified instances that we could call reasonable suspicion. And the bottom line is where a police officer sees an alleged person committing a crime in his presence, or where he reasonably suspects him to attempt to commit an offense. Now, outside this that I have mentioned, if it happened that the police is arresting somebody on the reports, complaint received from another person,
all right, we have to leave it at that because of time.
Or the investigating agency is under duty to investigate. First,
okay. We don't have too much time because of the element of time. We have to leave it at that. Qudus, you've told us that there's lawful arrest and unlawful detention, but arrest must be lawful for it to hold. Want to thank you so very kindly for your time. Annkio Briggs, convener, Niger Delta Self-Determination Movement, Godswill Jumbo publisher, Christina Reports, and of course Qudus Alalafia, legal practitioner, head of chamber, Chinedu G, Udora, and Co. It's been an interesting conversation with all three of you. Thank you very much. And that's the size of our package for this week, for tonight and for this week. But don't forget, we return on Monday with the hottest and the topical conversations of issues and developments in Nigeria politics. So on behalf of myself and the entire team, thanks for your time this week. My name is Kofi Patel, signing out. Good night.